counting performance and potential. Big question is, how many people have a high performance? There's one way to find out, namely, and I already did it, by sorting performance on largest to smallest. And if you do that, you can scroll down and try to find out where the 4 stops and where the 3 starts. Well, there's another way to do it. And the formula is called Countif. And it's already here. If you can't find it, type in count and select the Countif function. And it enables you to select a range. So in this case, we select potential. What we then do is we select Control and Shift and we press down. So it takes the entire row for the entire table. It jumps all the way down to 4,962. And then we say we want to know, test the criteria number 4, because that's the maximum score. And you already see that there's a count of 984. So you say OK, and we know that there's so many people who have a potential of 4. Now, and we can do the same. We can even create it into a table and say, hey, this is potential 4, 3, 2, 1. And we can basically do the same. We say, hey, equals count if. We open the bracket. We take the same data range. We take the criteria, which is in this case criteria 3. We close the bracket and we have 1,300 people with a potential of 3. And you can do the same again and again. But there must be a faster way to do this. And there is. But before I show you this way, ideally we want to make a matrix. So we also want to know how performance stacks up. Now, to do that in Excel, you can use the formula, and instead of count if, you use the count. Oh, it's not there. Count ifs with an S at the end. Why? Because that enables you to do a count if formula. Again, Shift and Control, press down. Criteria is 4. The second data range is performance. Control Shift down. And the criteria is 4. And now it's actually counting how many people have a potential of 4 and a performance of 4. And you see that's 210 people. And you can fill it in for the rest of the fields. And then create a manual 9-box grid. But there's a much faster way to do it, because we're working in Excel. And the much faster way to do this is, I'll remove this data, by creating a pivot table. And you're probably familiar with the pivot table. If you're not, look it up on YouTube and find out about the basics of the pivot table, because it's an excellent tool to work with. First of all, you select the data range. You go to the table, you press Ctrl A, and it basically selects the entire table. Then you press OK. Scroll up. And there's a pivot table being created right here. Now, what you want to select is you want to make a division where performance is in the top row, so the rows are potential and the columns are performance. So performance in the columns and potential are in the rows. And you see a 1 to 4 and a 1 to 4, with the columns performance and the rows are potential. Now we want to know how many people are in the 16 different fields. The way to do it is to select employee ID and drag it to values. However, it now takes the sum of the employee ID. And that's a bit annoying. Why? Because the employee ID is quite a big number, and taking the sum of it doesn't work at all. So you click on it, you select value field selection. Then you select count, and we already saw the count from Countif. And we click OK. And now you see the 4x4 grid. And you see precisely how many people perform high and have a low potential, perform high, have a potential rating of 2, and perform high and have a potential rating of 4. So we know this is performance and this is potential. This is performance, this is potential. Now, how can we visualize performance? That's quite easy. What you can do is you can select the grand total of your columns of performance. You can paste it. When you paste it, that pops a window where you can transpose your data. So the data is transposed, as you can see. You can then easily identify and see how performance is distributed by selecting, clicking on Insert, selecting a table, and then in Design, select your data and select, I'm making a mistake, select this data range. And select OK. Then you see that performance, most of the people, about 2,200 people score a 3 in performance, about 1,000 people a 4, slightly more a 2, and 600, 700 people have a minimum, a low, a bad performance. And you can quickly add a chart element by adding the data labels per bar, and you can see what the actual value is per bar. And what we see here is skewed performance. As you saw in the last lesson of the first module, performance ratings are often skewed, and you see that in this model. What more can you do with this? There's a lot more actually. If you click the table, we can add a filter. And filters enable you to filter on certain specific items. For example, if I say, hey, give me the location filter, I can just select location 1, click OK, and then find out that there's only 3 people who have a maximum potential and a maximum performance score. And this way you can select one location, you can select multiple locations, and see how the talent pool for this organization and for these locations looks like. I'll select all, OK. Now, at this point, we just have a normal count of the employee ID, so how many people are working here. We can also use different variables, for example, gender or age. Let's take age. We don't want the sum of age, no, we want the average of age. We want to know if there's a difference in age in your performance matrix. So when we select OK, we get a really long value. We select these values. We say, hey, give us fewer numbers behind the comma via this button. So this is the age distribution. So what we see is that people who perform very low, average age is 45, 45, 42, 44, 42, all the way to 44, and then the average age is 40. So that seems to be the youngest group. Now, by doing this, we can actually see how age relates to performance. We see that the people who perform very well and who have a high potential, who are classified as being high potential, are slightly younger compared to people who are at the opposite of the spectrum. Another nice trick to do this is to select the data, click conditional formatting, and say the top or the bottom rules, and select the top 10%. The top 10%, well, in this case, that's the oldest, is called red. You can even make it 20%, for example, or even 30%. This shows, let's make it 33%. This shows the oldest population. And we can do the same by having the bottom 10%. We'll make that green. I'll take the bottom 33%. And we see visually now that the youngest population is highest in potential, because this is potential, remember? And that doesn't seem to be a match with performance, while the older population is lower in performance. So there seems to be in this data set some truth about, hey, does age correlate with performance? Visually, I would say, might be. And as you can see, you can do this for multiple locations, for one location, and you see different patterns per location. So I select 3 locations and you see similar patterns arriving and disappearing. So we take all the data and this is what it looks like. And this is a way to quickly visualize your data.